Today is October 20, 2020. It's a regular scheduled meeting, Twiggs County Board of Education. I've been asked to tell y'all if y'all will put your mask on. Well, okay. You want me to pledge allegiance to the flag and show a prayer for that? We get started. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic to which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we just want to humbly bow our heads to you, O Lord, knowing that there's only one God and only you, Lord. Heavenly Father, I ask that everything we do and say here today be pleasing in thy sight. And Heavenly Father, that you be among us, O Lord, that we do the business of the county. We pray to spare your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, before we get to y'all look it over, stop what we're going to do. One announcement I got is a financial check, general fund. As of this afternoon, $205,305.68. That's from the Bank of Dublin. The Splosh Bank of Dublin is $85,113.97. Elmwood Bank of Dublin, $502,508.62. General Fund, the G1 Fund, $235,972.32. The Splosh in the G1 Fund, $845,588.88. Anybody else got that amount? Okay. All right, so see the agenda. First one, get anything there? Yeah, I'm present. Nicole?
One man, executive session.
Oh, that's already on. That's the possibility. I'm out on the floor.
I'd like to add, at every meeting we have a executive session on the agenda.
Oh, we got, you want that?
I'd like to make, at every meeting we have an executive session on the agenda.
On the agenda, we're supposed to have that, so we'll make sure. One more announcement I need to recommend, and I need to make, Mr. Pond will be here tonight. Mr. Lieutenant Washington passed away this morning. He started up with that tonight. Washington, he passed away this morning. Yeah. All right, entertain a motion to approve the agenda or disapprove of whatever. Yeah.
Motion approved. Yeah.
Got a second? All right, now you vote yes.
Yes.
All right. 2021 budget adoption. Anyone want to make a motion to approve, disapprove, or whatever?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that for you. We just had it both of you at 5 o'clock. Any more discussion of it? I need to vote yes.
Yes.
Do. You vote yes on the floor? You vote no? Yes. Okay, how do you do that? All of us. All right, open bid for the sewer rehab. Just all the bids we got, Mr. Wood?
Yes,
Utility Asset Management, UAM, bid $17,400. Townley Construction Company, bid $18,444, no cents, $18,000. Jack, have you looked over these?
I did.
What's the thing? Stuff up here what we're here, Jack.
When they come in, I looked over them, and what they're actually going to do. UMC is actually going to inject all of the joints prior to relining, and they're also going to remove the roots. And once they remove the roots, and they actually inject those joints and actually kill those roots. So that's going to be my suggestion, and they're the lowest bid as well. So that's going to be my suggestion to go with UMC.
UAM,
Yes, UAM, yes, sir.
$17,400.
Yes, sir.
No one look at these folks, no one go.
UAM.
UAM,
Go with UAM.
17,400.
$17,400.
I'll second that motion for you. Any more discussion? How you vote? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, Jack, that'll go to work. Road department schedule. You put this on there first. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to put the road crew back on 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 8 to 4. We need somebody working 5 days a week. They are 189 days a year, working 14. We need someone here 5 days a week.
All right, got a motion, got a second? Got a second? Motion failed, call on second. Item number second. All right. Planning and zoning, building permit application. Mr. Ford, I think you want to put this on, wasn't you?
Suggestion that we put it on.
What you got?
Last week when we, this is all, not all my baby. This is school.
Okay, but you have to let you call me, like.
Yeah, I did. We didn't, yes, I did. The reason that we didn't do it at the special call meeting is because we only had 3 commissioners at the meeting. And a decision like this, I think if you're gonna make a decision like this, we need a full board. Well, tonight we don't have a full board, but I'm still recommending, my recommendation is to, a motion is to move planning and zoning back to the commissioner's office.
If I'm not mistaken, planning and zoning already in the commissioner's office, right?
It is.
And, all thing that permit was in tax assessor's office.
Or permitting it. I changed my motion to permitting.
Wait a minute. Have we got a second? We have a second. Discussion. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, that permitting has moved back and forwards probably 4 times in the last 10 years. And if you're going to move it, you need to keep it. But before you move it, you need to have qualified people and follow OCGA 43-41-1 through 14, which covers and outlines the entire setup to include penalties for failing to follow the Georgia code. Now, your official code of Twiggs County addresses some of that, but it doesn't address everything. So you don't want to jump off in deep water before you get everything lined up and before you can manage it. It requires licensed personnel to manage the program, and the state law operated under the Secretary of State requires that you have certified inspectors. Now, the inspector that the county's been using, as he came before the board, he had qualifications that were unbelievable. He presented qualifications that even you couldn't pronounce the names of. And you don't want to go backwards, you want to go forwards. So having said what I've said, I think you ought to have the attorney look at the Georgia code before you start making modifications.
We've got a resolution of attorney, and he looked at it.
Yes.
Isn't he supposed to? He said he didn't do nothing.
Now, he may have said he looked at the Twiggs County code, but he needs to look at the Georgia code.
No, went on attorney.
Wait on the attorney.
I move to wait on the attorney. And we'll just go forward after that.
We'll just skip over that, go to next item, do and bring it up when we come to it. That suit y'all?
I couldn't hear that, Mr. Chairman, I couldn't hear that. Somebody just...
I said we're gonna skip over that item and wait for the attorney to come in, and then we'll come back to it.
Okay, I can't hear,
I withdraw my motion.
Sir?
I withdraw my motion.
Oh, okay. Motion been withdrawn, so I assume the second has too, so we'll go forward. Wastewater sludge. Mr. Falk, you want to address us on that?
Yes,
Mr. Falk called me, asked me about getting on the agenda for this.
Mr. Chairman, last week, I made the commissioners aware of the application of the wastewater sludge biosolids located on 907 Carolina Drive. And I didn't know, y'all said that y'all didn't know anything about it and that y'all would look into it. And I didn't know if y'all had anything to say about, any of your findings.
We've got the attorney looking into it, all I know is stuff that you got set me,
Okay.
the permits and the requirements and when they supposed to be inspected, checked out, all of it.
Okay. Also, I'd like to say that I'm not against agriculture and I'm not against the farm. I grew up on a small family farm myself, so I understand these practices. However, it concerns me greatly when a corporation that their business is wastewater treatment and, and producing sludge or biosolids, use our county more or less as their landfill. And, it concerns me that the community that's around this property, of our well water, the air quality, and our wildlife, just our environment in general. I mean, I'm no expert in this, I'm not a scientist, but from all the research that I've read in the last 3 weeks, it's true that this sludge does contain nitrogen and phosphate. However, it comes with a very nasty package of a lot of other things that we probably don't want to be applying to our land that's going to be there forever. And I'm not really worried about today or what's happened in the past. We can't change any of that. But we sure can change what happens to our future, especially our future generations that'll come behind us. I mean, if we allow this practice to continue, it'll only get worse. And we don't want Twiggs County to be known as a waste dump. I mean, that's not good for nobody. Even in the small community that we're at, I'm sure everybody has concern about that. And, the likelihood of we actually stopping this, it's slim to none. But however, all the residents and, if you live between Segoda Road and Tarletville, you should be involved and you should be outraged at what's going on in your backyard. Because it's going to affect all of us 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And, it's going to be our water. And, when we can't drink our water, well, then our property values fall. And then when our property values fall, you can't sell your land and move somewhere. Most people don't have that luxury. And so, at the end, it's just, I think that it's not a good idea for this practice to continue for, our future. Now, I did find this out, and this concerns me even more. On July the 31st, 2018, Macon's Water Authority, which is called Rocky Creek. So let me back up here. All the waste that we're receiving in Twiggs County at the Savage Creek Plantation comes out of Warner Robins. They're 100% land applied. They produce, according to their permit, about 1,200 tons a year. That's about 60 trucks, 60 transfer trucks load waste. Well, Macon, now they're dumping our waste in our county. And I'll give you a copy of this. Now, I assume that Savage Creek Farms in Twiggs County is the same thing as Savage Creek Plantation. I can't say that for 100%, but I don't know of another Savage Creek Farms in our county. Okay. They can dump, according to their permit they have, Macon can dump up to 13.7 tons per acre for a year. That would be a total of 4,466 tons, or equivalent to 223 trucks. So just based on Warner Robins' permit and Macon's permit, well, we're looking at like 282 trucks a year of bringing sludge into our county. Now, this says right here that there was a 30-day public comment period. And I don't know if any of the residents or anybody in Twiggs County was aware of that.
What does it say now? Say that again, sir?
It says right here that the Macon Water Authority has approved sludge management for the land application. The Georgia Environmental Protection Division has reviewed the amendment, which in addition of Savage Creek Farms in Twiggs County. The 30-day public comment period has ended. No comments were received. Now, in our county, we have 2 recipients of sludge. Okay. The main one that I'm concerned with is the one that's owned by ESG Operations outside of Macon. And Macon, they have a total of 17 different sites they can dump their sludge. If they don't have a site to dump it, then they also are permitted for the landfill. But Houston County, which is Sandy Creek, they don't have a landfill permit. So they're 100% land application. So there's a total of 5 sites, some's located in Warren Robins, some's located in Byron, and some other places. Well, if any of these other sites or farms do not take their sludge, it comes here to Twiggs County. You see what I'm saying? So if any of the 17 out of Macon do not take any of that sludge, it's coming here to our county.
If they don't take it, where do it come to?
It's the trucking contractor brings it in. Macon has a separate trucking a separate trucking contract. ESG has their own trucks.
It comes over to,
It comes over. I assume all it says right here is Savage Creek Farms, and I'll give you a copy of this. And I assume that Savage Creek Farms is Savage Creek Plantation.
That was
Now-
posted in Bill County.
Yes, it's Bill County, this will be Rocky Creek,
It's not posted in Twiggs County.
sir.
It's not posted in.
I have no idea about that, but this is where I'm coming to, that what we should be very concerned about is because what happens when Milledgeville, let's say, that's a good-sized city, let's say they decide, oh, we're going to dump this waste over here in Twiggs County. Well, how do we know? I mean, the permits and all. There's nobody from this county signed off on this. This is everybody in the Macon Water Authority and the EPD.
can I see that? Why you talking, go ahead and talk. Gary, you looked into some of the stuff there.
I did, and it, from what I saw, it looked like the ESG and the Macon, I thought the Macon Water Authority had a state EPD permit.
Well, they do. That's what I'm saying.
And, we're not the first, and we're not the only. I mean, this is done all over the state. And it's something that looks like the General Assembly took up this past session, and they allowed counties arguably to be able to try to enact zoning ordinances that would restrict exactly where you might could put some of these, but it's not going to, you can't restrict it to where you can't have it in the county. Is my take of looking at the law. And so, I don't know if there's any evidence that the EPD finds that the applications that are being done in Twiggs County is out of compliance with the permits or the Georgia EPD rules or the Code of Federal Regulations. I believe that the monitoring falls upon the EPD and not the county. But having said that, I believe there is possible ways that the county could say, make the zoning clear that you couldn't put this kind of stuff in certain, like in an R1 district, okay? But I think that it would be highly questionable whether or not you could zone it out of the whole county. And y'all know I know how to get to the courthouse in Twiggs County. I know how to get to most courthouses all across the 159 counties, but exactly where this place is located and how close it is and exactly what it's zoned, I'm guessing this is zoned agricultural property. Those things would be highly questionable of whether or not we could change our zoning ordinance in such a way as to make it impossible for them to use this land application system for farmers. And my guess is that a lot of farmers like it. I know from my conversations with some farmers in Houston County, they really believe it is a good product, and they really come out and test their fields to see what the pH and all this is, and if they need more lime, they call up and they bring lime. I talked to my son about it. He was an ag graduate from the University of Georgia, and It is an accepted way that farmers get fertilizer and fertilize their fields. Now, depending on what the quality of it is, it makes it and how much is coming, is supposed to dictate how often they test and what is grown on those fields. And I know we got a farmer that was looking at me saying, you don't know what you're talking about, and I'm really not claiming that I do. But I do know that it is difficult for counties to step on the toes of a state EPD permit. And there's only narrow circumstances where we can do it. And I'm sorry I missed the first part, but apparently there was a big fire on I-16 that had things really backed up. I apologize. But just from me looking at it, Mr. Chairman and board, and it's Mr. Falk, right? Hey, I'm Kerry. It looks like something that other counties have tried recently with no success, none, at great expense.
Other counties try to stop it.
And their problems are, it was just outside Athens. What county was that?
That's in Oglethorpe County.
Oglethorpe.
And I know a lady who lives there.
Yeah, and I've talked to their county chairman, I talked to their county attorney. Billy Pittard, I think, is the chairman in that county. I talked to him for a long time. And they spent a lot of money. They got more money than we did. And they spent a lot of money fighting it and got nowhere. But they believe that with this new House bill, there's some things that they can do. And that county and some others around it are working on trying to have some control of where the land application systems can be, as opposed to it can't be anywhere in the county. Is that what your understanding is?
Yeah, that's what I said earlier.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I missed
The
that.
chances of us stopping this is slim. Okay? But the impact to the environment is detrimental. Just like I know a lady, her name's Donna, lives in Oglethorpe County. The application site is a half a mile from her front door. Her well is full of arsenic, and they can't drink the water. Well, her neighbors within 2 or 3 mile radius, all their wells are full of arsenic. And so she, speaking with her, they have to drink bottled water. Well, she can't sell her house because nobody will buy her house. And she doesn't have she's not financially able just to leave it behind and move somewhere else. And, she says she's built her life here. And, the trucks come in every day. And actually, where she lives, they don't apply it to the land. They have a pit in the ground, and they call it a sludge lagoon. They just dump this liquid sludge in this lagoon. So, I'm not saying that
They don't spread it.
no, not where she's at. All of this liquid.
And what they're doing there in Oglethorpe County is, I think, a different kind of sludge than what is coming here.
Right.
Their sludge is actually what is left of the chicken after everything else has been taken away. And so, really what you're left with is whatever can't be used for people food, dog food, anything else, that's what's pelletized and either being in liquid form.
This is coming out of slaughterhouses.
It's coming out of slaughterhouses.
Is this what you call chicken sludge? Because I've heard someone say chicken sludge, and I've never known the term, but instead of the human sludge. But I'm assuming that is chicken sludge.
And from my
I'm no
understanding,
sludge expert. I just know.
Right, I know, but
that is what is coming to Oglethorpe County is what's left of the chicken when everything else is taken out of it. And I think that it is, in some ways, it's a worse pathogen than what is coming to Twiggs County.
well, now
That's how
all
I understand
pathogens
it, and
is
I'm
coming to
going
Twiggs
be-
County. They're Class B pathogens.
Right.
So that's going to it's going to contain more pathogens and, more viruses and stuff like that, in
And
there.
you said Class B, what now?
They have a Class A and a Class B.
What's the difference?
Class A does not have a lot of unhealthy pathogens in it. Let's say Twiggs County, Jeffersonville probably in Class A. We don't have any industry here. There's no hospitals. There's no nursing homes. There's no funeral homes dumped into the sewer. But say Warner Robins and Macon, you have hospitals, nursing homes, funeral homes, and then everybody's house. Well, a lot of that stuff winds up into the wastewater treatment. Well, when they have wastewater that they dump back to the river or the creek, well, the sludge is all the stuff that they took out of it. So these things can be concentrated, with heavy metals. And, once heavy metals is introduced to our environment, they're not going anywhere. They're there forever. And, my son lives less than 200 yards from this application site in this permit that you're looking for making.
I was not notified.
And, I worry about my son, my granddaughter, the water they're drinking. My son, every time they apply this sludge to the fields for weeks, he has sinus problems. His eyes swell up, his ears stop up. I mean, he can't talk some mornings. Now, we have tried to figure out, maybe what caused this. So he has come stay at my house for 2 days. Clear, he's fine, no problem. He goes back home and then he has, these sinus troubles. He can come in the mornings and with a lot of sinus problems, but by dinner time, at work, he's fine. So that, not only, if you're smelling the sludge, well, you're breathing those pathogens because they're airborne, and these pathogens can travel up to a 6-mile radius. And so, I know that they want to, these companies got to get rid of their sludge somehow, and they market it as fertilizer. I mean, you can buy the stuff at Home Depot, but read the back of the bag and ask yourself, do I want to grow my garden with this stuff? And so, sure, I mean, you're going to hear all this good, wonderful stuff from the farmers. It's free fertilizer. They get the lime free. And you're all going to hear how great it is, but they've got to get rid of this waste somehow. And in our state of Georgia, there's 159 counties. I've been through 70 counties permits. Very few counties apply land application sludge that I have found so far. Most everybody does landfill. There is no incineration that I've found so far. But I'm going to do all 159 counties, and I'm going to come out, I want to see how many actually counties practice applying this sludge to land. And I know it's business, and I know the farmers want to make $1. ESG services, they're increasing their profits. And you're not even taxing them. I mean, if we go to the landfill, you got to pay a tax or you got to pay a fee. They're dumping this stuff in our county for free. And they're polluting our county. Now, is it going to show up today or tomorrow? Is somebody going to walk out in the field and fall down sick? No. But what about 10 years from now? Your grandchildren, they get sick because of the stuff in the water or the air that they breathe. I mean, I don't understand how anybody could think this is a good idea because it's not clean. Anything that gets flushed down the toilet and make it in one of Robbins is coming to your county. This is pharmaceuticals, microplastics, pathogens. Okay, I was reading an article last night. They're testing big cities predicting the coronavirus. You know how they predict an outbreak of the coronavirus? They're testing the wastewater sludge, and they're finding traces of the coronavirus in the sludge. If that virus lived long enough to infect someone, it's probably rare, but can we take that chance? If one person gets sick and dies, is it worth it? And then, I look at some of these rules they have, okay, in this permit right here, it clearly states, if they apply this to this land, for 30 days, you cannot graze cattle on it. Okay? Okay, also, EPA rules that's in the 503 restricts public access to that land for up to a year after the application of sludge. Okay? But it doesn't restrict the workers to go out there and work in these. And so, we got 30 days on livestock, a year for the public, but the people that's Some of the residents that live there, that's working there, there's no restrictions for them. So, if common sense tells you that this is not good. Now, I've sent ESG operations 2 emails. I invited them to this meeting. I have heard nothing from them because I want to hear their side of the story.
They wrote a letter, and it sent me a copy of it, and y'all put something out there. Can I say while you reading over that to me?
Can I say one thing?
Hold on just a minute there. When they have these public hearings, whatever it is, this 30-day public comment period, did they notify people in Twiggs County, or how did they do that?
I don't know how the state EPD does it, but I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be a hearing that's held in the jurisdiction where the application is going to be had. And I thought we found where there was some sort of hearing that was held in Twiggs County somewhere at some time regarding this. Isn't that right, Mr. Chairman?
It said, yeah, well, not when he's talking about this for making, but it says right here, we'll make the 30-day public comment period ended, no comment were received.
Right.
But in 2017, there was one held out here at the senior center.
Right.
You were there, Jerry. I was there.
That's what I was going to tell you. There is a place.
Yeah, they did have a hearing.
That accepts the waste, but it's not, it's out toward Warner Robins. Warner Robins landfill sends it to the Twiggs County out of that farm.
If I remember right, they didn't mention nothing about Copper Sharp, but I would say the creek to you.
Yeah.
Did they say anything about saying the creek?
Yeah, it was up. They had to have a public hearing, 30 days. They had to post it into the legal organ of the newspaper.
Yeah, but did they say anything about stuff in the 129 in that hearing? I don't remember that.
Yeah, they thought.
They said it was coming out of Warner Robins, Houston County.
They come out of House County. It's dropped off out here, right on Twiggs County and House County line. I'm not sure the farm where it's at. I can't remember the people's names. But they had to have a public, they had to have it in the newspaper, public organ, just like they normally do anything. And then for the people to have some say so about it, and they legally have to do it. I don't know how these people do it.
How often do they have to do this? Is it one time, one shot deal?
It's actually, they've been 2 times it's tried in Twiggs County. One time was out here on 80, out here on the farm. And there were so many people in Twiggs County showed up and county commissioners were down in the old courthouse that they posted that no, and the farm was back out there and they were going.
That was in 2015.
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
15.
No, I'm talking about the dump, the sewer, the sewage.
Yeah.
What, how
I
many,
wasn't one to celebrate. I started singing the song. Me and Jerry, I know Jerry was there. Miss Shirley, was you there?
have any studies been done on aqua system, the effects it has on that? This area is supposed to be one of the largest freshwater aquifers that supplies water. Has any studies like that been done on that you guys know of?
See, Miss Shirley handled that.
If I can add to what Mr. Falk has already said, the aquifer runs right through Twiggs County. And the hydrologic cycle of water is seepage, evaporation, and runoff. And 2 of the 3 is going to contaminate well water. And the third one destroys your air quality. And this property that he's speaking of, and Mr. Falk has given a good explanation and he's done very good homework. This property is under conservation. And ESD is obviously making money bringing that sludge to Twiggs County. And once it comes onto that property and it's creating monetary value for them, it breaches the contract and the covenants of that property. Now, there's another aspect you might want to have the attorney look into, but I'm saying it'll breach the property, the covenant. And they're not hauling that sludge for free. I don't know if anybody does anything for free anymore, but there's another avenue to look at.
They don't have to notify the government authority of the county when they do something, dumping it, anything in Twiggs County?
And my understanding from looking at the state EPD guidelines is that there has to be notice run in the paper and there has to be a hearing in the jurisdiction which is going to be either creating or receiving the waste. I don't know if that's the right term, don't hold me to that. I'm not an environmental lawyer, let me just start off by saying that, okay, and that's not what I do. Mr. Chairman, my understanding is that they are supposed to provide notice in the paper and hear public comments, and the state EPD is supposed to take that into consideration, as would we on a public hearing that we would have in deciding whether or not to grant the permit or not. But, you know, again, I go back to these requirements that are set out as to the things that they are supposed to do and they're not supposed to do and how often. I mean, those are EPD, state-issued regulations that we cannot enforce. We do not have the power to enforce those. The state EPD is the person, is the entity, is the arm of the government that has to be the one that enforces that. And so other than presuming that the provision in the new House bill that came out is enforceable, which is arguable, but let's just presume that it is. The only thing that I know that a county can do, because as far as saying no state, you're wrong, we're not going to allow this in Twiggs County, is, I mean, you're going to be preempted from making that decision. A state body has already said yes, they can. And so all that we would be allowed to do is to try to confine where this permit could work. Then you run into the problem of, well, they're already out there doing it, and now you're passing a law that says you can't do what you've already been permitted by the state to do, and trying to apply that retroactively. That's not an easy thing to do in a court of law, to make a statute, to make, to change something after you've already done it. It's not so easy. I think there are ways and arguments to be made. I'm not saying it's impossible, because I think that would be wrong. I just want y'all to know that if we were to change our zoning to say, hey, you can't have this within so many feet of another piece of property or in this zoning period, you're not going to be allowed to do it in residential or R1 or R2. Okay, you got to leave somewhere they can do it, and maybe you could come up with a rule, hey, you got to be at least 500 feet, 500 yards, or whatever you want to come up with, okay? But it needs to be a reasonable restriction. You can't say it can't be within 10 miles of any house or business, because then there would be no place in the whole county that you could do it, that possibly could be done, but would that mean that we can now say what we once were legally able to do, we have changed the law and now that's illegal? Okay, that's another thing that we would have to consider. And so I guess what I would wonder about is, what is the state EPD saying about what's going on in Twiggs County? Are they saying everything is testing properly, everything is being done?
It's a self-governing.
Way he explained to me when I called the EPD. The EPD called the people that own this property. He said he was applying chicken manure. Well, it leaves the EPD, it goes to the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture comes out and looks, it's chicken manure. It's kind of case closed. They call back to the EPD, it's chicken manure. And so they use chicken manure to cover up the sludge. And the only requirements on the chicken manure is if they stockpile it, it has to be so far from, it contaminating any waterways. And so it's kind of like, when you start out with this, I live in Lawrence County, but I'm from Twiggs County. My family started here in the early 1800s.
Sure.
That exact piece of property where they're at used to belong to my family. I have a small portion that's left to the side of it. It's about 50 acres. Okay? All right. I'm not, Twiggs County resident, but I'm a taxpayer. I own property here in Jeffersonville, and I own a business here. But this is my home. Well, my son lives right there on my property right there. And, to me, personally, I'm kind of aggravated with this because some residents came to me with these. Okay? And they complained about it. Now, everybody's quiet. I mean, I don't even know any residents from Highland Park is even here tonight. Okay? And I'm very aggravated that they're drinking the same water my son's drinking.
I ain't drinking no more.
You understand what I'm saying? So if these people don't care, I'm certainly not going to care. I mean, already I have defamed the company and made all kind of remarks and everything like that. And, I'm the only resident now that's complaining. So, there's no case here anymore. But I'm angry at a lot of people because they came to me and they put, of course I'm going to say something. It's where I grew up. It's my home. I don't want to see it, destroyed. I want my granddaughter to grow up on the land that her great-grandmother owned. I'm sure there's a lot of farms in Twiggs County that has history that goes back to the 1800s. Do they feel any different? I mean, I can't see where anybody, the people, in the Adams Park and Bullitt area, they should be outraged. This room should be packed full because there's nothing we can do to stop it, but it's not fair for a company to buy a piece of property, transpose it into applying sludge, and ruin everybody's investment in that area. That's not right. I don't care how you look at it, what kind of business it is. It's not fair. It's not fair to my son. It's not, I'm fighting for my neighbors that are mad at me because I said something about this. I'm fighting for their well and their home and their children, and they don't even care. And so, I know I'm a little emotional, I apologize for this. But, I just feel like that it was brought to my attention. But now nobody wants to stand behind me, but they're expecting me to get it stopped. I just go on back to Dublin and let them deal with it. I'm not trying to be ugly here, but I just want everybody to understand how I feel about this. And I'm very passionate about it. And I do get angry because, at the end of the day, these companies should not have the power to come in to any county and do this without nobody knowing. It's been going on since 2015. That's 5 years. And so, we're already 5 years, and so another 5 years will be 10 years into this. And it's something we can't take back.
Is there anything we do?
Yeah. No, because let's just say you own a farm and you want free fertilizer. You get permitted. There's nobody stopping you to do what you want to with your piece of property. It's up to you to make that decision. Whether this is beneficial for you or not.
We can invite our representatives here to let them.
I have went and talked to our state representative. I have called everybody I know except the governor. And if I could get hold of his phone number, I'd call him too. But everybody gives you the runaround because nobody wants to deal with this issue.
That law that goes into effect in January 11/57.
I thought it may have gone into effect already, but
I think it's the first of the year from my understanding.
So my
10:57.
my feeling from talking to a county who tried to do it, it was really noxious odors, really close to a lot of people. Okay, the thing to do I think is the first thing to do if we wanted to do something, is to work on amending our zoning ordinance, which they're working on. I've asked them to send it to me because they said, hey, Carrie, if y'all do something in Twiggs, please, let's all do the same thing. Okay, let's don't have one county that says it can't be within 5 miles, and one county that says it's got to at least be 100 feet, and one county says, they said, we think that in our rural counties like Oglethorpe and Twiggs, and we all need to have as close as we can to the same, and it needs to be tied back to a scientist or to a report that says you need this much distance. And so, you know, whatever it turns out to be. And so I'm now part of a conversation that's going on between Oglethorpe County and the next county next to it and the next county next to it. And the idea is to try to work within House Bill 1157, I think is what it was, to make it
1057.
Okay, 1057, to make it more burdensome here than somewhere else. And it's, you know, and I told the attorney, I said, this is really no different than the stuff I put on my fire ants. I mean, I can get out of my yard, but it's going to go over to your yard, you know, and so, but right now we're just worried about Twiggs County, and I think that eventually, this is a problem that's, if we could help in Twiggs County, if it is a problem. I mean, I haven't seen any scientific reports that say what is going on here is wrong. But without that, if the board wanted to say, okay, we want to try to get out in front of this and we want to amend our zoning laws, that's what we can do. Beyond that, you're talking about spending a lot of money, a whole lot of money, fighting a battle that I'm telling you, after looking at it for a little bit, we start off, we're not on high ground. We're on the harder part of the battle. And they have, not just this company, but that whole industry has unlimited monies. And you better believe they're going to fight it tooth and nail as they fought it in General Assembly. I mean, there was a lot of money spent on lobbying to get this law watered down to where it turned out. You know, I would say you need to
I have no idea.
I counted 12 trucks in 1 week, physically saw.
Sir,
Did you just ask how many trucks?
how many tons?
I can just tell you
It
12
says
trucks.
this permit on this thing here, they monitor it once a year if it's not over 310 tons a year.
an environmental
If
lawyer.
it's 300 to 1,600, it's once a quarter. 1,600 to 16,000 is once every 2 months.
Right.
Over 16,000 is once a month.
And you all right, because the lady Donna that I talked with in Oglethorpe County, the county did spend a lot of money with lawyers and the judge just overruled them. And you know, the trucks come to their community every day.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that if a county, not just this county, any county decided, hey, we want to carry the battle flag for this, you need to have $500,000 minimum set aside to pay environmental lawyers from Atlanta that are going to be somewhere between $500 and $1,000 an hour to fight that. And I don't care who you hire. If you can resurrect Johnny Cochran and get him to come in here and do it, they are starting at and having to fight their way uphill. So I think if the board were to consider this, and I think you need to consider it more than just 1 or 2 nights, but if you were to consider it, the thing that makes sense for us to do is to follow the counties that are already out there and amend the zoning and go at it from that direction. If we were to decide to do anything, we do not have the kind of money to be leading the charge in this battle. We don't have enough soldiers to throw in this battle.
And the main thing I wanted...
And I'm not saying that at all, trying to deliver.
Oh, I fully understand. I agree with what you're saying, because that's the reality. But my main thing is, I wanted everybody to know in this county what was happening and the health risks and the environmental impact this can have to our county, because when you talk about this, nobody knows this practice is going on. I didn't. I mean, you know, when they come to me, that's the first time I ever heard of wastewater sludge being applied to land. I mean, it took me 2 weeks of reading to even understand the basic concept of it.
I've lived there probably 5 years. I can't really recall right now. But I've smelled the smell. I never knew what the smell was. I mind my own business. You know, it smells like sewage. So I'm thinking it's like my sewage, or you know, I go inside, you can ask my wife, I know for a fact for 4 years, we smelled the smell. And I never, you know, I just go inside and mind my own business. And then when it was brought to my attention that it was harmful and you do research, and these ain't people that's on blogs and stuff like that, these are actually research. And like UGA, we read that one last night from UGA, saying it had health risks. And it's like, everybody's like, it's good. You know, I live right there. I'm debating in my mind, and it really pisses me off, because I wanted to stay there the rest of my life with my family. Now I'm having to think about moving. It pisses me off.
Sir, we understand what you're saying, we listen to you, and we're not gonna let the dish go to sleep, put it that way.
It's hard.
With his attorney, and he can work with his other county, and see if we can stop this. If nothing else.
It's horrible for his county.
Well, and I think somehow we've got to figure out how these notices come out. And, you know, when can you complain? Because you have 30 days, but I don't know how people are being notified.
That's what I was talking about a while ago. If you don't know about it, 30 days ain't gonna do you no good. You know when it comes. Mr. Atkins, you want to play something?
Yes, sir. The attorney had mentioned EPD. EPD is federal and EPA is state. Now, has federal been involved, or is it still in the state's hands?
Well, that would probably be my misuse of EPD versus EPA. I thought EPA was federal and EPD is state.
No, you got the Environmental Protection Agency, but
EPD is the state of Georgia.
That's what I think, but Mr. Ashley
And so that's who we initially contacted, was the
It
EPA.
doesn't matter whether it's an A or a D. What I was talking about was the state agency, not the federal agency.
And I want to say that permit comes from the EPD.
You want
the
to
continuation would
Keep
be,
that, got another copy.
I think in
Mr. Chairman?
2014,
Yeah. Go ahead.
the continuation would be to look into the inspections that's being conducted by the state. And that would be very simple. They'll provide you the information by requesting it.
I'm
And you
supposed,
might find out inspections are not being done
anyway,
routinely
Tuesday,
anyway.
I'm supposed to go to the open records in Atlanta and pull whatever information they have that's public.
If you requested how much is being done and how often they monitor,
I really don't know what records they'll give me, but it is testing data and it is permits, and I'm gonna go back and add.
when you supposed to go
I'm
up?
supposed to go up there next Tuesday, I'm supposed to be there at 1
That's a good
o'clock.
starting gun.
And I have an hour to review those documents, and any documents I want is, I have to pay for them, they're 10 cents a page. And I'm really not so interested in the testing data, because, you know, it's a self-monitoring program, so, you know, I don't have no faith in that. I really want to understand, you know, the permits, who all's permitted to apply their waste here, you know, and every city's different.
You said self-monitoring, what are you talking about that?
That means that ESG hires a company that does the testing. They get their testing data, and the way it was explained to me, those files are transferred to Atlanta to EPD. And
They don't do their own follow-up on that?
not that I'm aware of, not what I was told. I was told by the Department of, no, the NDR, that it was a self-monitoring system, that they done their own testing, whether it was outside contractor or their testing, and that they would take that test results and they send it to Atlanta. And then it's held there, you know, records, and I think the records are held for 5 years. It tells you in there how long those records can be kept. In that information.
I'll look at them again.
And so, you know, I just want everybody to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, no, but you stay right there.
Okay.
I appreciate what you did, but I tell you what, it's fantastic. They come in here and nobody's aware of this. There's no way nobody knew this. I mean, someone might do it, but we need to make every citizen aware in Twiggs County what's going on. And the only way you can do that is send a flyer to every citizen in Twiggs County, every zip code in Twiggs County. Everybody needs to know about this, or it's gonna stop right here tonight. It's just gonna slow down, nobody here, like Buddy said. And I tell you, put a lot into it, and we all got something in common. We're all from Twiggs County, Georgia. I don't like it. I don't smell it. I don't like it. I wouldn't want to smell it one day. But I sure appreciate Buddy putting all this time and effort into it. But if y'all could talk to commissioners, if y'all could, we could get up a flyer and direct to Buddy's webpage to start with. And maybe have a meeting at a gym somewhere. And get, because everybody don't know about us in Twiggs County right now. I mean, there's people that don't know anything about it. There is a lot of intelligent people in Twiggs County that will be a lot of help to us. And we just got to get everybody involved, or ain't nothing gonna happen. It is a bad thing. We can try to go forward with it. I don't say backing down from nobody.
You know, this
Because it's not get worse.
I mean, this practice has been going on for a long time, back into the early 80s, you know, in the 70s. And, you know, places like New York, Pennsylvania, they have a lot of history with this. And, you know, a lot of counties up there in New York and all have banned, and cities have banned this practice. I guess they have that, you know, that power to do that. But they ship waste sludge from New York all over this country, as far as Texas, Virginia. And so, you know.
Well, another thing too, Griffin Mill is in Dublin, on East Dublin. They've been battling that for years and years. I've worked 30 years down there. And they still got that smell, you know.
Right. Well, I worked there 8 years.
Okay.
And you know, it's not like they're farming and they're putting chicken manure out and they're planting and it stinks for 2 or 3 days. Okay.
Right, you would have helped, y'all ain't been down there being dumped over there.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I said, did y'all have any idea this was being dumped, the sludge was being dumped?
No, no, sir, no.
Brandon would have helped the park.
I know. He's been a tremendous help
Yeah.
to me. And I
All we
appreciate
did,
everything
my
the
side
general office done.
was educate on what we're involved with regulating from the private on-site septic systems. And we do offer coliform testing for wells. Can you hear me, understand me? So if you have a concern about bacteria in your well, that's something we can check. And then these other things that can be checked, like metals, nitrates, we refer to the extension agent for UGA.
You can check the water for them.
Yeah, we can check and make sure their well is within required or recommended setbacks for protection.
Could you give me an address?
I have gotten my well tested through them. I gotta pay $150 for UGA, and I'm waiting for her to send me the box.
Yeah, we checked his well, and his well didn't have any bacteria in it at the test.
But they can't check for the heavy metal.
Yeah, we didn't check for that. All one thing to do is check for.
And so that's another thing for this community they need to think about. There is a great potential risk for those toxins in that sludge to make it to well water. I mean, that area right there is bound between 2 creeks. It's very sandy soil, so it's going to drain quick. You know, it's not going to hold its moisture. And then, let's just say Josh, he has a wife, small child, they live on a budget. Well, you know, he's got to pay $150 to have his well tested. Well, let's just say it comes back okay today. Well, what happens 6 months from now, you know, when he wants to have his well tested again? Well, who covers the cost for these residents for monitoring their well water? If you live in Bibb County and Houston County, your water coming out of your spigot is monitored. There's somebody testing that water every day. But there's nobody monitoring our well water. And who absorbs that cost? So that's what I'm saying when these companies, I'm not saying Farmer Brown is fertilizing his field and he's going to plant wheat next week. That's not where I'm at. Where I'm at is a company that their business is sludge. They have a great opportunity to abuse the system, and they're making a profit from it. But the residents in this area, has got a burden forever if you're going to continue to live there. I mean, does anybody understand what I'm saying? And I don't feel like that's right to pass that burden on to the homeowner. And you know, I want everybody to do their own research. Don't believe what I tell you. Okay? Go read about it. In every article that I read, no matter if it's from the EPA of Pennsylvania, EPA of Ohio, or all these universities, they will say it is a fertilizer. It's high in nitrogen and phosphorus. It'll make stuff turn green. It'll grow. Okay? But it also comes with a lot of nasty things. Anything that's flushed down the toilet is in that sludge. And so, you know, that's what I concluded from it. You know, I would have respected ESG more if they would have come here and explained their side of the view instead of sending a letter and blaming me that I'm the only part-time resident that has a problem with this. And I feel like, you know, it's just really not fair. The whole system's not fair.
Hey, Ken.
So I don't have anything really else to say, Ken. Thank you for the
Thank you,
time.
Mr. Paul. Thank you.
I got to ask one more thing. Now, what do y'all think about that, what I just said? About letting everybody in Twiggs County know about this, because they don't read the newspaper. And you don't want to put it on WBZ right now. But I'd like to know what y'all think about sending out a flyer.
I ain't got a problem with it, can we do this, Gary?
I put it on the
They're going to switch it over. It's going to be straight by numbers now. Only way you get anything done.
What are we gonna say in the flyer?
I don't know.
That a concern has been raised by citizens in this area as to this, and we're gonna have.
We have to be kind of careful, we don't want to get ourselves wrong.
Well, I mean, I'm not really that worried about any sort of liability. I mean, this is an issue of public concern. It's being stated in a public forum. I mean, there's a real strong statute that protects whatever is said in here about that. I mean, it's all about a public concern.
We need to stop, or we need to try to stop.
Well, I mean, I think you're at the point where we really ought to be looking into, and I'm saying that it all takes 6 months or a year, but we ought to be looking into, I mean, Ms. Fox, I think you'll appreciate this. We're just not going to all of a sudden hear something and make a knee-jerk reaction. We're going to make a study and careful decision about what needs to be done, if anything, in Twiggs County. And give everybody like ESG, I like what you said, I mean, they need to have an opportunity, and so does whoever else wants to come in here and tell us about why what we hear from one side is wrong. I mean, I had a judge tell me one time, I'll never forget it, no matter how thin, a pancake always has two sides, right? And so I think we need to be careful about just putting out one side on a news flyer as if that's the county's position, if it's coming from the county. That would be my concern, because ultimately you guys will have to decide, if anything, what's going to be done and what can we do after listening to me, whether you listen to me or not. And so I think
So based on what you said, it should be some private, not us.
well, I think it would be, it probably beyond this has come up, and we're going to have concerns. We appreciate hearing from you about what you think about it. Beyond that, as far as taking a side initially, I think that's a mistake. Because then when you get into a lawsuit, if you ever did get into a lawsuit, they would say, look, the county decided at day one what the answer was. And that's not the way we want to, as a legislative body, deciding on what we need to do for Twiggs County. You don't want to make a sudden decision like that and make your mind up. You don't want to prejudge it. But if you want to say, hey, we're considering this, we'd like to hear from our citizens what y'all think about it, I think that would be okay. But that's as far as the county would need to go in the newsletter from the county.
That's what I'm saying, just what you just said.
Okay, I think that's as far as
I don't know what each commissioner thinks. Just like I said, no knee-jerk thing, everything good and legal. Just kind of let everybody in the county know what's going on. Could I ask the commissioner to see what they think about sending a flyer out?
I think it's a good idea. It's fine with me, I ain't got no problem.
Put it on our website, you know what I'm saying?
I'd like to say one last thing. I would really like to see kind of like a town hall meeting.
There you go.
And I would like to have representatives from ESG there, and maybe some representative that has knowledge in the environmental impacts of this. So we can all hear, everybody's story.
It's already bad enough, we don't want to.
Because, all we can think is the worst.
Yeah, we don't
Because
want
I
to
haven't
cancel
heard anything from anybody else.
I think it needs to be presented as far as the flyer goes, as an invitation of a concern for the betterment, with due respect for hearing what people think, what they say, the research, the state and federal level people, the people that are dealing with it, maybe from other counties. It needs to be presented as a collaborative effort to, in the end, culminate all the data where a reasonable decision can be made on how to further address it, to stop it or change the rules, whatever. But an invitation, freedom of speech, an invitation for people to get involved, why not?
Good man.
I have a big concern about having no knowledge of this for 5 years. I've lived in the same spot for 18 years, and a few years ago there was a big to-do about the landfill with advanced disposal, and I was involved in that. WMAZ, all the TV news people were involved in it. The community was involved in it. We all were outraged. And if I had heard one word about anything like this beginning in any part of this county, I would have been immediately involved in it. I think it has been deliberately kept quiet. This company dealt with somebody. They had to deal with somebody. And there was no public knowledge of it. If there was any at all, it was whispered, and it was among 2 or 3 people. But
Well, I'm not interrupting you, but the only one I said that dealt with was EPD.
If I'm not
Sir?
mistaken,
The only one that I see they dealt with was EPD, state of Georgia. To get the permit, I have no knowledge of that government, so.
well, I don't know what the rules are, but I'm not talking about changing any rules. I'm just talking about going back to the very beginning, how it all began.
in late 2014 or 15, it was brought before the board, and the board turned it down. Now, I was not part of the board then, but it was turned down. And I've asked our administrator here to go back and find the minutes to find out exactly when it was brought before the board. The board turned it down. This was a state permit, and they went above us to the state and got it.
And we can't supersede state law, am I right?
But there was no
In
public.
general, that is
It was
correct.
running here, and it was brought before the board, from what I can remember back in 14.
The public hearing me and Jerry went to the 2017 out there, the senior center.
Yeah,
Well, this started way before then.
but Miss Shirley had something to do with that one, though. It wasn't nothing to do with it all.
Excuse me, I have had nothing
Yes,
whatsoever
you
to do
did.
with
You had a
this.
meeting, over there about these people out in Warner Robin, on the edge of Warner Robin and Twiggs County. Don't tell me that because.
Well, we won't get into that.
I remember going out there, but I don't know what, I thought it was through.
I want proof that it was a public notice, because I mean,
That's what I'm talking
I'm
about.
pissed. You
The
know,
public notice is probably a 1 inch by 1 inch column in the paper. It's probably this big. If somebody goes back and looks,
whatever money.
You're probably right, that's the reason.
That's why nobody reads
Yeah.
that. Nobody reads
This
that.
Thursday, they talking about right here, public comment. Nobody knows nothing about this Thursday.
But somebody wrote it. Somebody contacted the paper. Somebody had a conversation with another individual and said, I need this ad run, and somebody paid the bill.
Well, that bill, probably paid that bill.
But somebody did. I mean, somebody knew about it. It didn't just miraculously appear, you know.
Well, what
in the
They got
paper.
the
what I'm
permit.
really seeing right now is it probably did happen. And I'm telling you, because of not understanding what it said, it just passed by. That's what's happening 9 times out of 10. So when something come in the community, we need to have somebody here to research that. And then see what then happened is, it came and they told them about it, and it passed, and it's here now. So we're just gonna have to do that from now on.
I have one
That's
question.
the good us about it.
If the rules were not followed correctly back then, would that make any part of what's happened since then, like null and void, or, you know, like a contract that wasn't done correctly? Can you go back and just tear it up?
No.
What say you, sir?
Well, okay, so,
Probably
you know,
somebody
this is
signed
the
off.
kind of stuff lawyers hate, it's just getting asked these questions, you're not really sure what the answer is, but to be fair to you, I'm just gonna bet my paid for white pickup truck, okay? And I'm not bragging, but it is paid for, that every legal requirement was done. That is my strong guess. Now, let's just presume that it wasn't, and I just lost my paid for pickup truck, and I gotta get another one to start paying for it, okay? I don't know what a judge would do with that. I, again, would tell you that I think a judge would say, Mr. Howell is county attorney for Twiggs County, or as county, as a private attorney for any one of y'all or anybody else, you don't have standing to step in the shoes of the EPD and come into this court and try to enforce the EPD rules. That's why we got an EPD, and that's what they did. And they're not about to privatize an army of lawyers to start going out there and filing lawsuits on their behalf to enforce their rules. Any more than if I wanted to, I could go ahead and arrest somebody and prosecute them for violating the law here in Twiggs County. That's the sheriff's job to arrest them and the DA's job to prosecute them. I can't throw them in jail just because I think they violated the law. That's the idea of what I'm talking about. Do I think that's right? I don't know if that's cosmically right or not. I'm just telling you that I think that's my understanding of the law. Another lawyer might disagree with you, and I sure wish y'all would quit looking at me. Look at these people.
I have a question. So if this was done by the EPD, shouldn't the EPD notify whoever was on the board or county commissioner or whoever signed that
That's
paper?
what I asked a while ago. They were right before they looked like to me, they should have notified the government authority. For all I know, man, we would never notify them.
But who signed that paper that lives in this county that's on the board? Somebody had to know about it.
They do what now?
If you're on county commissioner board, somebody had to be notified. You had to know of it.
That's what I asked a while ago. They were required to notify. I ain't seen anything notifying us. It's done through the state of Georgia.
So how are the trucks coming in, but nobody knows who authorized it, and this has been going on for a solid 5 years? And you got trucks coming in and out of the county dumping sludge and asphalt, whatever else, but nobody knows about it, but it's been going on for 5 years.
I don't know this man. I didn't know about it until the fault brought it out.
Exactly.
I didn't know about it until Tim Taylor, and I live on the damn dirt road.
He lived right on that side of his farm. He didn't know anything about it.
I've been on board for years, and I didn't know anything about
So
it,
you
but as a
live down the
citizen,
road
I
and
think
you
I
didn't
should
even
have
know it
known.
was sludge.
But there
You live
is,
down the
to
street.
be honestly fair, there is a possibility that this can happen and nobody in this county knows about it, because I haven't seen any evidence anywhere where it has to get approval from the county.
When this stuff is done in Twiggs County, all citizens from Twiggs County should know about it.
I know, but what I'm saying is if I'm a farmer
They
and I
didn't notify
decide to take
us.
it,
If they did, they didn't notify me.
but if I'm a farmer and I decide to take this sludge from my farm and it is permitted to me, does that mean that permit has to meet approval of the commissioners? I don't see that because I don't see anybody from Twiggs County that signed that permit.
EPD made it where they could just do what they want.
Because the permit is signed by the EPD and the Macon Water Authority.
Did the health department sign anything, Brian?
So how come it skipped all those people, everybody in Twiggs County, health department included, but it got signed by the state, but nobody in the health department or Twiggs County knew? That's skipping something along the lines.
Well, I think we had our chance when we had the public hearing, and nobody showed up. That was our opportunity right
Write
there.
it down.
When they put this.
Nobody got it.
Ma'am, the Mrs. Administrator here, she's going back through all the records and minutes of all the meetings. She's already back in 2013. She has not found any record of any meeting pertaining to that sludge out there.
So something was, okay, sorry, I'm sorry.
It could have been, it was slipped up on, it maybe slipped up on the table, but it wasn't us.
Nobody's saying that.
Yeah.
But everything else gets written about in Twiggs County paper, stuff that really doesn't matter. But yet something that does matter, a public meeting, even afterwards, nothing in the paper. So there's nothing, right? No article on the front page. Here's what happened at the public meeting last Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Nothing like that. Y'all come up with seen nothing whatsoever about this meeting that happened in 2014 or 2017 or whatever.
We don't think that's what they put in the paper now. We can't get on with it.
That's why I was comparing that, all that hullabaloo with the landfill. It was a big deal. But this, nobody knew about it.
Nobody knew about
Nobody.
it. I can't
That's a
answer this
little
for you
too
now.
quiet for me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a reason for that.
I have a question about the treatment of sludge. Sludge is a generalized term. There's all kinds of different sludges. It's like saying dog and how many breeds are there, okay? There's different types of sludge. There's different types of treatment for each sludge. Most sludge is activated sludge. It's treated by shooting oxygen into it where it decomposes and using protozoa and things like that to decompose it naturally and get it down to a sedimentation where it can be used. But then you've also got the other side of sludge, which is the disgusting stuff that shouldn't be used for anything. Okay? It's not aerobic. It doesn't help as far as fertilizing goes. So back to the process, when they come across this county line, they're doing their own self-regulating testing, and they're sending their test results into the EPD, and they're following all their little guidelines. Where's the check and balance? I worked in a lab for 10 years. 10 years. I know for a fact when a tech runs a test, it spits out the machines. It's just like a register. It spits out the results. There it is. There's your glucose, your sodium level, whatever. Those results are manually either composed into your chart, your report, or at this point in time, it's probably electronically done. But somebody has to mash the button to make the information flow over into Tina's chart.
So
that to me is a loophole right there.
They told me, did you tell me they were self-monitoring?
That's what was explained to me by the EPD.
Yeah. self-monitoring.
No,
That
we
means
did
that
hear what I
nobody
said a while ago,
checking.
that about like let the pop look at the chicken house. Now, I can't remember.
I know.
That's the state door.
And that person, what, that's doing the, I don't know how they test it, dipstick it like you check the chemicals in your pool? After you had, who knows? I mean, I'm just saying, to me, there's no check and balance system going on with something that's gonna affect a lot of people.
I was thinking,
That's a big old fat
but
loophole.
we don't set the check and balance, that's the state door, EPD.
Mr. Attorney, could you, request from the EPD all the records and tests done on this, place out here?
And who's the person doing it?
They need to test the creeks, they need to test the field in front of my house, but they won't do it because they have the cover up of chicken. And that's the reason why they have piles of chicken. It's attack.
And how do you know what's under the layer of chicken manure?
That's what I'm saying, in the test, what he said, they go in 7 inches in the ground. Is that what that guy said?
I don't think there's a regulation on chicken here.
No, I'm not talking about chicken manure, I'm talking about sludge. But they're using, I'm talking about,
So they're saying 7 inches covers you as far as checking beneath the chicken, like chicken manure?
no, the sludge.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
guess that's what they.
Yeah, I probably go through the
7 inches.
I can't remember.
But nobody's done any testing on the site, nobody's done any testing on the creeks. It's kind of like
To our knowledge.
chicken manure, no worries. So, I just see this not going
We
anywhere.
will see what we can do, I guess, don't have, I got stuff. If anything, I don't know if we can.
I'll probably be moving. So,
Huh?
I said I'll probably be moving. Probably Lawrence County. So.
All right. We're on 19 update, Mr. Wood.
Yes, right now we're doing real good. We're at 211, 9 deaths, 52 hospitalizations. We still encourage everybody to wear our mask. It come out of the red, so that is a positive sign. And we're actually back into a yellow county, so we're doing real good as far as keeping everything under control. We've had to have some outbreaks and things like that throughout the community, so we encourage wear your mask, wash your hands, make sure you're using your hand sanitizer as well, and make sure we maintain our social distance.
All right. All right, let's back up the plan that we waited on is we're planning the zone here.
Oh, good.
I know you're joking.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
Well, my motion was to move planning and zoning, the applications, permits, building permits and applications to the commissioner's office. Once we get a qualified person in that office.
The inspection law, we run through that. You want to include the inspection?
Right. Did everyone hear my motion?
Restate that motion with Liz.
Commissioner, for a motion to move building inspection and permits back to the Board of Commissioners office. Once they have someone that can do the job.
Got a motion and a second. I think you seconded before. Still want to go back to that second? Second. All right. Any discussion?
I hate to say anything, but I do want to add this to it. There is an ordinance, and I forget which number it is now. I got 1057, 1157, but there's an ordinance by which the Board of Commissioners have designated and authorized the Board of Tax Assessors to take on those duties on behalf of the board. And so in order, if this motion were to pass, of course, we would need to amend that ordinance and withdraw that permission and take that back inside the Board of Commissioners. And so I would presume that Mr. Ford's motion would include that idea that, of course, we would amend the ordinance in the event the motion were to be granted, to take away that authorization from the Board of Tax Assessors and put it back with the Board of Commissioners. I mean, it's one of our statutory sort of home rule powers, but it had just been assigned to the Board of Tax Assessors for years.
I think you told me it first done in 1997, and then revived in 2011, I believe.
My numbers are not good tonight, but it's been a while that they've had that power, and they would need an authorization from us to be able to do that kind of work. Otherwise, it would sort of be just under the rule of doing it. So it's proper that there was an ordinance, and so we would need to amend that ordinance now. So that's all I got to say on that.
All right, got a motion?
You're in discussion now?
Yep.
Okay. I would go so far as to say that when you do the ordinance, you need to include OCGA 43-41-1 through 14, which requires the licensing, qualifications of personnel, inspections, certifications, and protection of the homeowner commercial activity. And it also gives penalties for anyone that violates those codes. So, in conclusion with that, I see nothing wrong with it. Except, if you move it, you need to keep it. It's been moved 3 or 4 times already, and there's no point in bouncing it around.
Good.
Now, also, the city uses tax collector's office for their permitting. Also, you have to remember that the city also uses that office for.
They get the permits and everything through.
The city goes through them to get it. So, if you take it away from them, your city's going to have to go hunt down somebody else to do it.
Okay.
You have to remember that.
All right, any more discussion?
Guidelines that you got to go by when you try to get a permit. If everybody goes by the guidelines, they don't have any problem with the permit. You're talking about hiring somebody for $40,000 $50,000 a year to do planning and zoning, when you already got somebody doing it now.
You want to do that? You want to make a motion?
If necessary, we'll have some. If necessary, yes.
All right, got a motion, got a second, any more discussion? What you got, Bill?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, Commission Board, my name is Jimmy Gordon, and I need some, to get some understanding about this, the CDL license. You know, I don't understand how.
This is totally
Well,
different.
yeah, let's go to something else. We get that up.
Oh, okay.
You better. All right, got a motion. Reread that motion, ma'am.
Commissioner Ford, motion to move building inspections and permits to the Board of Commissioners office once they hire someone that can do the job.
Okay. Got a second. Any more discussion? How you vote? Yes.
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 No.
All right. 3 yes, 1 no. All right. We need to, you want to make a motion to rescind this contract?
No, I think somebody else should.
Can I ask a question? Who do we go to now to get the permits? Where do we go to? Who do we get in contact with to do permits? I got a home, I'm fixing to remodel my garage. It's going to require a permit. Who do we need to know will come up here to do it?
We'll go from that.
And are you still going to use the current inspector for the inspections?
I think the motion stated until we get someone.
Yeah, that's the way I understood the motion, was until the Board of Commissioners has a person or a policy or a procedure stood up in place,
Right.
it will stay with the Board of Tax Assessors. And there's got to be somebody that can issue building permits.
Yeah, I got to have a permit.
Right, I mean, that's why I understood the motion, is
That's
that,
what,
that's what we voted on, correct?
That's what's been meant.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna look at that.
Ms. Jackson?
Now, Commissioner Birdsong brought up a point about hiring someone for the aspect of your board that you're going to develop. But how about for the inspections? You've got to have, according to the state, licensed inspectors. And the inspector you've been using for all these years that you signed the contract with, he came in here and presented a wheelbarrow full of qualifications, some of which you couldn't even pronounce the name of. Are you going to continue to use him? Because if not, you're going to have one.
Well, at this point, all we voted to do is to leave it where it is until a new system is set up, Mr. Ashby. And so the status quo would remain until the Board of Commissioners had something ready to go. And so, you'd still go down to Ramona's office to get your building permit. And I presume, we're in a contract with Mr. West that would do the inspections. So I would presume that would keep going until the Board of Commissioners has the new way that they want to go forward with it, which I'm not privy to. So to answer your question, Mr. Fincher, if you wanted to go get a building permit tomorrow, you can go just like you would have gone today.
I follow whatever it is. I'm not going to do it. He'll come up here. The contractor's going to have to come up here and get the permit done. So.
Right. That's the only thing that's why I understood what we did tonight.
That's what you meant?
That's what I meant.
All right. That concludes our agenda. Approval of minutes. October 6, 2020. Entertained motion one way or the other. Motion approved, motion disapproved, what you got? Motion approved. Anybody?
Make a motion approved.
Second.
No controversy over this.
Not that I know of.
Let's approve.
Second.
Discussion, how you vote? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. They approve. Old business, mobile pantry. You got the dates, November 19th, 2024, December 17th, this spring. Then you got trunk or treat, Halloween activities, October 31st, 2020, 4 through 6. Courthouse Square, Main Street, Delta 12. There's no new business on there?
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know, would the commissioners donate individually, not out of county money, buy candy for the trunk or treat? The amount, we'll set the amount. Whoever they want to do it, we'll set the amount. It's out of our pocket, not out of the county's pocket.
Okay, that's fine. Y'all heard what was going on? That's something y'all want to do.
And you, Mr. Chairman.
No,
Floor is open for suggestions.
It's about what?
Money.
Money.
Yeah. Money, donate money for the trick or treat to buy the candy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's up to the business.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We ain't acting on board, what we gotta do.
Okay, well, I just want to know how much we're going to donate per person. I want to know that. I would like to have it already. I would like to have it already.
If you don't have nothing to do with the county, what we got to put them in the paper for?
Okay.
All right, no new business, executive session, was anyone?
Yes.
Yes. On three reading?
Personnel.
Legal?
I don't have a lawyer, that's why.
All right. Well, we go on executive session and vote on any public comment about anything. Jimmy, you want to say something now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I kind of understand about the CDL license. How do you qualify for something that you already have and other people going to get them and they getting promotion and raises and everything? And how do I get a raise or whatever if I got CDL license?
You already had CDL when you were hired, correct?
That's correct.
And then we come up with the idea that give them somebody $3 an hour and go give them.
That's right.
When they put it in the paper, that you were required to have CDL when you applied for the job.
Well, the position that they had open required for CDL license.
That's it right there. You got hired for a certain amount of money and to have CDL license.
Okay, now I would like to be included in this $3 raise. So what do I do? Go back to DOT and get licensed?
You already got license, you couldn't do that.
I don't understand. Help me to understand.
Read your application. When you fill out your application, it requires you to have CDL license. You were hired X amount of dollars per hour. You accepted that job, you got it.
I got the job. The job no longer exists.
You still got your job there.
I got my CDL license.
You still got your job there.
I got my CDL license. So how could I be excluded from something when you still, you saying telling people to go get the CDL license and they're going to get $3 raise an hour? I mean,
Negotiated your salary before you hired.
okay, all right, okay. All right, that's so.
What you doing now, Jim?
What I'm doing now? Right now, I'm on the side cut. But I also know the person that went and got their license, they not in using their CDL license to do what they got to do. I mean, they not driving the truck every day. And they get $3 raise an hour.
If Jerome is absent and we need a CDL driver, correct me if I'm not right, but you will put Russ in that truck, correct?
I'll put whoever I need to at the
You
moment.
can't put nobody in unless you got CDL license.
That's right. It could be Al.
You can put him in there.
It could be Alan, it could be Jimmy, it could be Russ, it could be anybody with CDLs.
That's correct. If you make it $2 an hour, you make it $100 an hour. You got CDL license, that's your job.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
That's
Mr. Birdsong. Thank
That's
you.
my position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, somebody want to make a motion to go into executive session?
I want to ask, where are you gonna have this, this Halloween thing, for the kids?
It's going to be out, the city's having, we just participate.
Well, where the city gonna have it?
Right here. Right here.
You want to swear what to tell
On the
us?
square?
Well, I think it's gonna be in the streets.
in the streets. And it's gonna last from what time to what time?
4 to 6 is what the paper said. Trick or treat, October 31st, 2020, 4 through 6, Courthouse Square, Main Street, Jeffersonville, Georgia.
And they asking everybody, all of the business to give a donation?
Whoever wants to give a donation.
That's what I'm asking, because the business, most of the business you ask, they would give a donation. Like the stores and the area, the business in Twiggs County.
I was just asking for the commissioners.
Just for the commission?
Yeah, I'm trying to meet personally.
Oh, okay, because I wanted to know, because if it were, I was gonna ask, my boss about a donation, but if the business not getting, so why should I ask him?
I don't know what the business was now. Laura was here, but I don't know.
The city may be asking the business, and I don't know about it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Anybody else?
Hey, Chairman.
Yeah.
A reminder of what you asked me to let go for a couple of weeks. I wanted to get the county attorney to look at it. Have y'all thought about it? At the last meeting about my back pay.
What's that look for?
That's the executive session we're talking about.
All right, so it's going to be an executive session. Thank you.
All right. Y'all ready, anybody else? Somebody said something about the executive session.
Most of the rules set executive session. Mr. Chairman.
Have a second? I'll second it for you.
This to be for personnel. I think it needs to be for personnel and litigation. I don't know about any property, but I know for personnel and litigation.
Won't you just state all 3 reasons out there? All right?
That's fine.
I don't think it's gonna be proper.
What have we been doing?
Yeah, let's change it to now.
All right, personnel and legal, that's all we know.
If Bob is not here, you won't be back there past midnight, huh?
Hey, look, all of them.
Yes.
Back, Sean, I hope.